That's the Tron, if you've seen Tron the movie, that was a motorcycle of that, really cool, I love it. Yeah, I had already 2 clients. I woke up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm actually feeling super pumped because it's sunny and it's not raining, and that's like in London a rarity. Yeah, me speaking English and German and all these languages doesn't really work out. Now guys, I'm thinking of doing the next couple of vlogs a little bit different because I googled the most searched questions people have in terms of fitness, and I'm going to use this video today to actually answer one of them. So if you like this kind of video, please give me like a thumbs up or leave a comment box below what kind of other questions you'd like to have answered. But I think because it's the most frequently answered questions, let's get started. Here we go. Okay, welcome back everyone. So this is my first video of my new video series where I'm going to be answering the most frequent asked questions in fitness. And the first one I found straight in Google is called, what is the best way to lose fat? And as you probably read in the title, that's what I'm going to be answering right now. So let's get into it. So first off, there is no best way of losing fat. The reason why is because we are all different human beings, meaning that if I would now come out with an answer, that might be different for someone else. And as a personal trainer, I know that because every approach I have to people is different. Their nutritional needs, their sleep, their exercise needs, where they're at, you know, if they're overweight, if they're not overweight, and so on and so forth. I mean, if they're obese or if they're sort of, you know, have a little bit of fat which they want to lose. So the approach has to be different. Therefore, there is no best way, but there is a best way for every single person. And if you follow these sort of guidelines throughout this video, you will pick your best way by following each of them, I promise you. So in order to get the most out of this video, I sectioned it into 3 sections, and we're going to be looking at exercise, nutrition, and sleep. Because these 3 are, in my belief, the best way of tackling this sort of question, or this is the best way then to get results in terms of losing fat, because that is what you want. Now in terms of exercise, there are 2 things I wrote down because there are basically the basics in terms of losing fat faster than anyone else. And that is this debate of heavy weights versus lighter weights. And we've seen it over and over again that if you lift heavier weights, meaning you're 80 to 85% of your 1 rep max compared to 60 to 70% of your 1 rep max. If you don't know what 1 rep max is, I made a video about it. It means your 1 repetition maximum, what you can lift with 1 time full out, and 80 to 85% of that is considered heavy lifting. 60 to 70% is sort of lighter lifting. So the people who go in and do like 20 reps here, 20 reps here, or if I just do 6 reps and really blast it out. And it shows that people who do heavy lifting increase their metabolic rate, their hormone response is much higher in terms of growth hormone, cortisol is going to pump out obviously as well, and also all the fat burning hormones are also going to be more prone to happen after your workout. So the repair process of your body is going to be increased, meaning while you're going to be sleeping, which we're going to talk about in a second, your body has to repair more compared to the lighter lifting. So long story short, heavier lifting is going to get you further in fat loss faster than lighter lifting. Next one, when it comes to cardio exercise, we know now that high intensity interval training compared to LISS training, LISS is low intensity steady state training, like on a treadmill going for an hour to 2 hours or 3 hours, running a marathon every day, compared to doing short bursts of really high intensity full exertion, like 100% full out sprints, let's say 10 sprints, you know, you've got a short break in between, or you do sort of a Tabata protocol, like the 4-minute Tabata protocol. These high intensity interval training protocols show that your fat burning, and here's the gist, or this is why people say, well, this is quite good. Low intensity cardio burns more fat while you're doing it, whereas high intensity, because fat, your body releases, or fat is a slow releasing energy source, whereas glucose is, you know, fast energy source, meaning that as you're doing the high intensity, you're not burning nearly any fat, because at 100% of your full output, when you run a 100-meter full blast, you're burning very, very little fat, or 0 to none. It's going to be ATP, it's going to be glucose, that's what you're going to be running on. But, and this is what is called the afterburn effect, meaning after you've done your 12 or 10 sprints and full out and you're fully, you know, exhausted, that's when your body starts repairing yourself, and that's where it shows that you up to 36 hours keep burning increased fat because your metabolic rate is higher and you have to sort of, your body tries to catch up with that really high intensity. Whereas low intensity steady state, as soon as you step off the treadmill, fat burning more or less stops straight away. So you can compare these two, like the 1 hour or 45 minutes you're on the treadmill, you're going to be burning, let's say 30% of your total output is going to be burned fat, to nearly 0 or let's say 2 or 3% fat in high intensity interval training. But as soon as you stop the interval training, you're going to be burning much higher amounts of fat. And now compare these two. Another really good thing, and this is a time saving option, is obviously you're only putting in 20 minutes, round about 20 minutes, 25 minutes into your HIIT session compared to 45 or 1 hour and a half into your list training. So it's also time saving. So this is my recommendation in terms of exercise. Nutrition. Let's talk about nutrition. When it comes to how to lose weight fast, or let's say losing belly fat or fat general, is by being in a caloric deficit. What does that mean? You have to eat less than your body burns. Very simple math. And then you will start reducing your body fat. Same principle, if you want to gain weight, you eat more and you're going to be gaining weight. Simple as that. That's a very simple fact and everyone knows that. That's the basic promise of it. But now the question is, how far or how deep of a deficit should I be going? Should it be 10%, 20%, 50%, 80% of a deficit? Just joking. So how much less calories should I eat to get the maximum output? And here's also a bit of confusion because people believe they have to be in a very minor deficit for a long period of time, and that way you will lose weight over time. That works. Let's say 10% a deficit. So if you eat 2,000 calories a day, 10% is 200, so you eat 1,800 calories, and over time you will lose that weight. Sure, that works. But the problem is with extended periods of dieting is that your metabolism will adapt, meaning it will slow down over time. So the longer you're in a caloric deficit, the more your metabolism will adapt. This is called metabolic adaptation. And now the problem with this is, as your metabolism adapts, these 200 calories deficit isn't enough anymore to lose weight. So you're going to jump on the scale and you're going to not see any progress. So you have only two options: either increase output, meaning exercise more, or eat less. So you're going to go, let's say after 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you have to drop again and drop again, drop again. And at some point you're going to hit your basal metabolic rate, so the very lowest point of calories you should ever go, and then you're effed, more or less, meaning you don't have any options anymore. So the better way of doing this, and I'm going to back this up with a study, is, this is against a lot of people's belief, is having a bigger deficit at the beginning, 20 to even 25% of calorie deficit, meaning it's going to be like 400 to 500 calorie deficit on a 2,000 calorie diet. And here comes the logic behind it. So let's back this up with a study. So there was a study done. It was done with subjects of 20 to 35-year-old national, international level track and field jumpers and sprinters with low levels of body fat, with under 10% body fat. And this is important because if you have low levels of body fat, dropping body fat is even harder. So this applies also for people who are having more body fat. And now the outcome is, they had two groups they tested. One was on a 300 calorie deficit, so a very moderate level deficit. And the other one was on a 750, nearly 2.5 times the deficit. And after 4 weeks, they did reassess all of them, and the ones with the 300, with the very moderate deficit, after the 4 weeks, nearly lost 0 to none fat. Very, very little. Insignificant in this whole test. And the guys who went on a 750 calorie deficit lost around a pound a week, so 4 pounds down on pure fat loss, which is pretty stunning and amazing. And now comes the logic behind this, why this works so well and why you want to spend as less time as possible in a caloric deficit. And that's why this principle of having a bigger deficit in general works so well, because the longer you're going to be dieting, the less time you're going to be building muscle, if that makes sense. And muscle is the powerhouse of burning fat and energy in general. So that means if you now diet for half a year, you only have half a year left to start going into a caloric surplus and building muscle, because the muscle is essential to be losing weight faster, right? So dieting shorter periods, let's say 4 to 6 weeks on a very aggressive, let's say 25% deficit, will help you to then have, let's say you do this diet cycle 3 times a year or 2 times a year, you will be losing more fat and have more time available to then build muscle. And I think that is one of the most important things you should get. So in a nutshell, I'm just going to wrap this one up. Nutrition. You need to be in a caloric deficit. The caloric deficit should be not moderate, it should be quite aggressive, 20 to 25%. I backed it up with science. And then also the logic behind it is because the less time you spend in a caloric deficit, the more time you have to actually build muscle. And that is what we need, because that's going to be burning fat. And the last thing I want to address here is drugs and alcohol. All these things, I made a video on alcohol, which is my third most watched video, so just go to my playlist. I talk about why alcohol stops fat loss altogether, because you know, your liver is the organ which burns fat, and as you drink alcohol, it basically stops. But more in my other video. Okay, so the last aspect I want to look at is sleep. And this is mostly overlooked by a lot of people because they, yeah, you know, Arnold says sleep faster, and other people say, well, I can work on, you know, 4 hours of sleep and stuff like that, and you're gonna die one day, so make the most out of it. And all this shit is just bullshit, because what happens is, of course, it works for a short period of time, but your body, and this is something very simple, will not forget what you're doing to it. What I mean by that is it will catch up at one day. You know, you're gonna be sleep deprivation will manifest itself on a daily basis by losing focus, by being tired, by not bringing the optimum performance, even though you might be pushing yourself with, let's say, coffee, right? You drink a bit of caffeine and you're like, yeah, I'm super pumped. All you're really doing is you're overriding the actual symptom with a stimulant. And that's not a good idea, because if you keep doing that, your body will get mixed up. And what I mean by catching with sleep deprivation, and when Arnold says we'll sleep faster, yeah, well, right, that works for a month, 2, 3, maybe a year for some people, and then it's gonna hit you really hard. Diseases will manifest in your body, hormone imbalances will manifest in your body, you will have to be running to the doctor, you might need to take a break from work altogether because you've got an effing burnout. And this is what really happens. That's what you don't want, because if you just take more time and really pay attention to your body, let's look at Adriana Huffington, let's look at Gary Vaynerchuk, and all these people who are really hustlers in their job. They also pay a lot of attention, especially Adriana Huffington from Huffington Post, the founder. She actually wrote a book on sleep because she broke her cheekbone by falling onto the table because of sleep deprivation while she was building the Huffington Post. And then she said she woke up and said, okay, I need to change something and have a look at sleep. So what I would recommend is getting 8 hours of sleep, and make sure that you get REM sleep. Deep sleep is the sleep where your body repairs, where your hormone levels recuperate and balance themselves out. If you go into 8 hours of sleep but you have very shallow sleep, so you don't dip into like a deep REM cycle, then you've got a problem, because then also something is not right. You might get your 8 hours, but you wake up and you're still feeling like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. That is you. Then you should have a look at your sleep patterns and so on and so forth. There's an app called Sleep Cycle. It's an orange app, it's free. Go onto the App Store, use this app. It will tell you your sleeping patterns and how well your sleep is. Make sure you get 80 to 100% of good sleep. Last thing concerning sleep is cigarettes and caffeine are both stimulants. So cigarettes, my opinion, you shouldn't smoke at all. But if you smoke, there's likelihood that you won't sleep well if you smoke at night, because it's a stimulant to your system, meaning it will raise your metabolic rate. You won't have time. There's so many things linked to this, where melatonin, which gets secreted to make you a bit more sleepy and stuff. It has to do with blue light as well. Make sure you avoid like your phone and all this stuff at night, which mimics sort of the daylight, and therefore you can't fall asleep. And the last thing, caffeine is also a stimulant. Obviously, we know most people, you shouldn't drink Cokes and caffeine before you go to bed, because then you're not going to be able to fall asleep and you might be insomniac or something like that. Right, so that's all I have for this video. I hope you like this kind of stuff. If you like these kind of videos, please punch a like button, leave a comment box below what kind of other videos you want answered, and I hope this is short and concise information for you. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.